Thank you for checking out Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mark, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. One of the best parts about doing this show is discovering new bands that I instantly love. Jaguwar falls into that category. Oyemi Noize from the band joins me today, and she was so sweet. She hung in there even though my brain seemed to kind of be in a sleep mode. But even though I seemed to struggle, she did not. She talked about how her mom pushed her to be in a band, which ultimately led her to meeting Jaguwar bandmate Lemmy through MySpace. And after meeting him, she discovered she was in the band only by checking out the MySpace page. The band and its sound has shifted a lot over the years, and Oyemi discusses how the shift from a four-piece to a trio gave them the freedom and really helped take them from a heavy shoegaze sound to something a lot poppier. She likes to call it future pop. They have a great new album out called Gold that they are learning how to play, and that's because it was written and recorded during the pandemic without the possibility of really working them out live. And they're already working on the next album. So give them a follow at Jaguwar Music, pick up the latest album Gold, and follow us at Performance ANX on the socials. Support us at performanceanx.threadless.com or ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Now let's jump right into the international episode with Oyemi Noize from Jaguwar on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Perfect. All right. So this is Oyemi from Jaguwar. We just released our new record, Gold. You can find us on Facebook, Jaguwar, and on Instagram, Jaguwar Music. You can stream the heck out of it everywhere. Go on Bandcamp, check our merch, check our music. And I was happy to be here at the Performance Anxiety Podcast. Perfect.
So to start with, how did you get into music in the first place? Was there a lot in the house growing up, or was it something that you just had this desire to learn about?
Yeah. So me personally, I actually grew up learning an instrument pretty early. So I come from a very musical family. So from my mom's side, my dad's side is not the most musical people in the world, but my mom is, and my grandfather and my grandma on my mother's side, they were both music teachers, actually.
Oh, cool.
So everyone in the household always had to learn an instrument. So my mom has two other sisters, and they all learned instruments when they were super young and sang in the choir. And this was also expected from all the other people that came to the family later. So,
wow.
I basically had no choice though. So, So when I was 6 years old, I learned to play the flute actually.
Oh, wow.
I did that for 8 years. And then I switched to guitar when I was 13 because I wanted to be a rock star. And then I was like, flute's not that cool. So let's do guitar.
Hey, there's only one flute rock band, and I don't think anybody's coming to take Jethro Tull's crown anytime soon.
No.
I don't think anybody wants to.
No, maybe not. But so this or that. 13, learned guitar. And at one point I said to my mom, okay, I don't want to learn classical guitar anymore. I want to do electric guitar. And then she was like, yeah, but then you need a band because I'm not going to invest in guitar that you're not going to use. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
That makes sense actually. But the thing was, I was also like a pretty depressed, isolated girl when I was a teenager. I didn't have so many friends, and going out to meet new people to form a band with was not.
Oh, we froze a little bit there. There
we are again.
There we go. Okay, I just sent the message that I was about to try to restart it, but I guess we don't have to do that now. Okay, so
it's fine.
So before we both froze up, you were saying that you didn't have a whole lot of friends, and so you had to go out and try to find friends to start a band. Do you think that maybe that was a way for your mom to get you out and meeting people? Sure, yeah, you can meet. You just got to go meet people to start a band.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. My mom saw the opportunity.
Mom being sneaky.
And she took it and ran with it.
Oh, mom.
Yeah, for sure.
Moms do that.
Yeah, they
sure,
do, because they're also like very smart.
Yes. Yeah, sure, you can do that, but you got to do it on your own. Go ahead. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, actually, I'm very thankful for that. So this is how I got like my first drummer. Then he had friends. We had our first band, and this is how I personally found into music. And I think I was around 16, 17 when I had my first band. So
Nice.
this is where I started. And not long later, actually, I found Lemmy, who's the guitarist of Jaguar. We met over MySpace, actually.
Oh,
back in the days.
wow. That's going back.
Yeah, I'm feeling old now, very old.
So
yeah,
your early bands, Jaguar has a definite, well, I can't even really say they have a definite sound because there's been a big shift in the sound. But before we get into that, did the early bands sound anything like Jaguar?
Not at all. Like my band, definitely not. My first band was metal band.
Oh, wow.
So pretty far away from what Jaguar is doing, actually.
What were you listening to at the time that made you wanted to go in the metal direction?
The thing is, I actually was more into punk rock at the time, and like punk rock and hardcore music, like everything from, I don't know what was around back then. I think like things also like at the drive-in I already loved at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like there were like some German hardcore bands that no one know, and like the punk bands that were around the scene in my hometown. So nothing that anyone knew. But I also listened to Touche Amore, for example, and like these kind of things. Rise Against, I think I also listened to. Yeah. So things like that. And the drummer that I found was like a big metalhead. Like he was listening to Slipknot all day long. And so I had no real choice. And then I was like, okay, then do metal, whatever. I just want to play.
Right. I'm doing what mom told me to do.
Yeah, definitely. So I did that. Yeah, so no, it was not like Jaguar at all. And also the others in the band, Lemmy, our guitarist, and Chris, our drummer, they both were doing like different things. I think Chris was more into punk rock also at the time, and Lemmy, like he had like several bands back then already. Like he had like a how do you say, like a blues rock band, like blues indie stuff. He also played in like a very classical rock band that was like, they were getting around in the scene a bit. So yeah, we were all doing different things basically.
Interesting. So how did you end up meeting Lemmy in the first place? So
MySpace.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah, meeting Lemmy, and then we met up one time, and Lemmy is like a bit older than me, like a far bit. Like he's 7.5 years older than me.
Okay.
And so when I met him, I was, I think 18, 19 or something, and still that shy little depressed girl. So I met this like older guy, and I was like, what the hell do you want from me? I don't know shit. So that was the first meeting, was an interesting one, I would say. Yeah, but he for some reason he saw something in me, and I was just like, how, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I cannot write songs. I don't know anything. But yeah, one time he was like, yeah, but I heard you also play guitar and you sing and you write songs. So do you want to play something for me? And I was like, hell no. I don't want to. But then he kind of pressured me into it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna sing you one song that I wrote. And he was actually, yeah, like I think he saw like something like a raw diamond situation. Yeah. I was like, you have a really good voice actually, and your song for the age that you're at, like it's not that bad, and I would like to have a band with you. And then he basically just decided that the band is existing and I'm in it. I was on vacation, and then I saw a MySpace profile following me, and I saw that this was a band where I'm in. And I'm like, so you just decided that I'm in your band without asking me. Perfect.
That is the best way I've ever heard of anybody joining a band.
Yeah,
I didn't have a choice.
Nope, I was just in it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with that.
That's incredible. Yeah. So he came up with the name and everything?
Back then we had another name. So this was like the Four project of Jaguar, the pre-project. It had like a really weird name. He came up with it. It was called the Artbreak Heart Shop.
Oh,
and
that is
different. It's different for sure. And yeah, I think like we were doing like some, I would say, indie rock, like influenced by a lot of things like Dinosaur Jr., Pixies, like this kind of music.
Okay.
And yeah, when was that? I think 2009, I think was that. And then we were doing that for a while, and we had like several people joining the band, leaving the band all the time. And Lemmy and I were basically the core.
So this was
of the
before
band
Chris
at one
joined.
point. Yeah, this was way before Chris joined.
Okay.
And then at one point we were just like, okay, we had a phase where things were not really going well, and we were thinking of ending the band. And basically I was just like, I don't want to end this. Like, I love this. I want to continue doing this with you. And then we changed the name. We were like, came up with Jaguwar, and we're like, okay, we're going to do something different. Like, we're going to start this new. We start this from scratch.
So how did you guys come up with the name Jaguwar? Because I think it's great. I love it. I mean, there's the old TV show Jaguar. There's also, that's the way the British pronounce what we in America say is Jaguar. So I kind of like both reasons. But how did you guys come up with Jaguar? Because you spell it Jaguwar. Yeah.
Right. We came up with, actually Lemmy came up with that because this was still in the Outbreak Hard Shop times, and we wanted to do like an EP or something, and he was working on a cover because he was already back then always doing our cover artworks like he does today still.
Okay.
And he came up with this cover because we're getting more into this shoegaze thing at the time, and he basically built a cover where you had like two Fender Jaguars like growing out of each other. It was like a weird thing.
That's cool.
And yeah, they grew out of each other, and then he was thinking of a name, how to name that EP, and then he came up with like Jaguar because it was like kind of like a weird hybrid situation of Jaguar guitars, and was fitting to like a shoegaze vibe and all of that. And so yeah, and then a friend actually said, like, was an ex-girlfriend of his, and she was like, yeah, the Outbreak Hard Shop is like a mouthful, where maybe you want to find a new name. And then I thought, like, yeah, we have this new beat that we thought we were gonna call Jaguar, and then we changed the band name to that.
That's awesome. That was a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Jaguar is much catchier.
Mm-hmm. So, it is. And she was like, when you want to get big, you should change the name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't do it after you started. It's a little harder at that point. So that sound, you said you were doing more Dinosaur Jr., Pixies influence stuff. How did the sound shift? Because the first EP, One, I mean, that's got My Bloody Valentine written all over it. If you were more into like the punk and then the Pixies, was My Bloody Valentine even on your radar at that point?
On my personal radar, it wasn't, but Lemmy introduced me to a lot of music back then, and he was already listening to My Bloody Valentine. He collected vinyls already at the time, and he bought this, bought Loveless somewhere, and he was showing me that, and I was just like, that's actually cool. And I think, and that's the thing with My Bloody Valentine specifically, as like the biggest, I don't know, most important influential shoegaze band or whatever, is that I feel they always had like this punk attitude, like they had this edge to it. So it wasn't too far away from my taste actually back then. Okay. So I felt like, like they're noisy and it's weird, and they have like weird ways of singing and sound structures and all of that. It was like kind of weird, but still it was like fast, it was hitting, and I love that. Also, like, I'm not the biggest Loveless fan, by the way. I know everyone thinks that's the best thing that My Bloody Valentine did. I disagree. And this maybe makes me a hipster or whatever, that I'm like, oh, I loved them before they did Loveless. I just don't think it's the best record. It's fine. I'm more into EPs anyways. And I think the You Made Me Realize EP is like way better. And this You Made Me Realize, especially this song, influenced Jaguar back then a lot, I think.
Okay. I can definitely hear that really early My Bloody Valentine sound in especially the early Jaguar work.
Yeah.
The music, you've got this heaviness to it, but then there's also, especially the first two EPs. And honestly, if you were to play me Iwo Jima Island, and then Gone, without telling me anything, just play those two songs back to back, I would have sworn it's two different bands. It is a wild shift. You kind of did a little bit the reverse of My Bloody Valentine, because their really early albums were very poppy, and then Kevin Shields just went all in on Noize. And you guys are kind of doing it backwards compared to what they did. You're all Noize, and now the two full lengths have a lot more pop influence to it. How did that creep into the sound? Well, actually, it didn't even creep in. It just, boom, it just hit you once. I shouldn't even say creep. It just, total shift.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was thinking about that a lot, actually. Because the thing is, yes, I was like this punk rock girl listening to like this kind of music, but still the way that I grew up was also a lot influenced by different kinds of styles of music. So I was never like very closed off, being like, I only listen to this or I only listen to that. Right. I was always listening to a lot of things, actually. And pop music, any kind of pop music, like very intelligent pop music, indie pop music, but also like what's on the radio. I love karaoke. Like, that's my jam.
Nice.
I was always listening to that. So that was cool. And I think Lemmy was also always like influenced by so many things. And doing these two EPs in the beginning was like a transition phase from us going from what our pre-project was, finding into this shoegaze thing, being like, we want to be more experimental with sounds. We want to create walls of sounds. Like, this was what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then doing these two EPs and then being like, okay, but there can be more to it, like bombast and like really big sounding production. Doesn't mean you have to do this shoegaze thing. Like, you can also create that in different ways. Mm-hmm. So I see a continued, I can see that it's continuous for me, how we evolve. But of course, it's always when you're inside the band and you're creating the music, you see that. Yeah. And for other people, it's more like, oh, they did that, and for some reason this happened. And for me, it's not that far away, actually, because I think we're still a very loud band. We still have a very full sound. Like, this is still what we are doing. Yeah. But with more like vocals more in the front, not like this shoegazy somewhere in the back vocals where you don't hear them. This was important for us also because I didn't want, let's put it that way. I feel the shoegaze scene, I had a shoegaze blog also at that time. So I was writing about shoegaze a lot. And like, people knew me in the scene also internationally because I had this blog. And what I noticed was that everything was always it was just about the sound, sometimes not as much about the songs, and also not so much about like lyrics having any meaning. And so it's like kind of shallow sometimes, what I would say. And
yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Because you can't hear them a whole lot of the time.
Yeah,
they're in the back.
Definitely. And
they're way down in the mix. Yeah, they're way down in the mix, and they're so reverby. You know, it's more. I think, and maybe this is unfair of me to say, but it seems like maybe there's not a whole lot in the lyrics, and it's almost like the vocals are just another instrument. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's also how I see it. And that was fine for the time that we did it. But also, me as a person, I also evolved like everyone evolves over time, forming like new opinions. And I was like, okay, actually, I want people to hear what we are singing about. And me writing a lot of the lyrics, I was just like, yeah, like no one's actually hearing what we are singing. And there is things that I have to tell. And I want people to be able to understand what I have to tell. And I don't want to hide the lyrics somewhere where no one can hear them, but be more confident about that, having something to say, and also like getting more political in my views. And yeah, I grew up. I was not like this teenage girl anymore. I was growing up and I formed opinion about things, and I wanted to use music also to transport these things that I had to say. And I think this also played into that.
I think that says a lot about the band, because there not a whole lot of bands are willing to make that change. You know, if you're saying I want to express some opinions and you've already got this sound on these 2 EPs, people are expecting a certain sound when they hear you. To change that up like you did, that, you know, for the entire band to be supportive of that, that's speaking a lot.
Yeah.
When did Chris join the band? Was that was before you guys started recording?
So the first 2 EPs are still with our drummer that we had back then. That was also the first drummer I had in my metal band. He also played in this band then. So he actually, and I actually feel like you can hear that it's actually metal drummer playing these things when you listen to it. So he recorded the 2 EPs with us before he left. And so basically we started with Jaguwar around 2012, and Chris joined I think in 2015. So we were already going with the band. Yeah.
Okay. Because it's kind of funny now that he's thinking about it. It's the first 2 EPs are heavier all the way around, like Muffhead. That is My Bloody Valentine. It's just amazing. And then if the second EP, which is title 2, is not too far removed, there's some softer elements like Kaysen and Novice Nightlight Tigers. A little bit softer sound to it. So I'm trying to think of a metal drummer in that. That's still actually pretty impressive. Chris joins the band, and you guys start playing that, or was it at the time hard for you guys to emulate all that noise live? I mean, you guys, there's only 3 of you, and it's a big sound. Was it difficult to do that in a live setting, or was it just getting as much noise as possible, turning everything all the way up?
I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, actually. I feel having a 3-piece band in my books always makes way more sense just because then there's more room for everyone. So that's cool. And I think it was a transition time for me also because in our pre-project of Jaguwar, I played guitar and I switched to bass when we started Jaguwar because we decided we only want to be 3 people. Because in the pre-project we were 4, and we were just like, that's just too much. It's annoying. You don't have space on stage. Everything is just all over the place. Like, no, don't do that anymore. And also having people dropping out the band all the time was like super annoying. Then was like, no, we do 3 people now. And actually this makes things easier. And I think it's just how you use the instruments. And for us, it's like maybe also because I'm actually a guitar player playing bass. Now I also think I'm a bassist. Back then I just thought I'm a guitarist playing bass, but now I'm very comfortable saying I'm a bassist.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and the thing is just like the way that I play my bass is still like also very chord driven, like take a lot of room with the bass. So this is already covered. So you don't need a second guitar to do chords or to fill the room or something, because you can do that with the bass. I think a lot of people are just like this, oh, you just play the lines or something and then it doesn't feel that broad. But there are ways to do that just in the way that you're playing, first of all. And also I have like a lot of effects, pedals that I use on my bass as well. So I can do a lot of stuff. Actually, I can make my bass sound like a guitar if I want to. So it's just like being flexible on that, on the bass helps a lot to fill the room. And with the guitars, I mean, people that saw us live also know that we might be a little bit going over the top with the amplifier. So I mean, I play two amps as a bassist. Our guitarist Lemmy plays four guitar amps, and with that is how you can create a sound like that live. It's possible because when you have so many amps, like he can basically emulate having 4 guitars if he wants to.
Wow!
So,
wow!
And this is how that works.
The songwriting. How do you guys do that? Are you all writing collaboratively, or is there one main songwriter? Are you writing most of the lyrics? Is Lemmy pitching in? How does the songwriting work? Are you guys jamming on shoegaze? I mean...
Yeah, we're not really a jam band. We never were. Like there are a few songs that were written in our rehearsal space together, but mostly Lemmy's coming up with ideas, sharing them with us in the rehearsal room. Then we work on that. So he has I would say he's the main songwriter in the sense that he comes up with the ideas, but we still work on that collectively. Okay. And also like usually when we work on the songs in the rehearsal room, we start doing melodies for vocals already, but usually the lyrics come way later in the whole process. So we start with melodies. And I think this is also what we kept from like, if I can say, our shoegaze times. I think this is something that we still stick with. I don't need lyrics first to sing. Like I can just sing a melody and use fantasy lyrics to just create a melody. I don't need vocals ready for that already.
Oh, right? Excellent.
Yeah. And I think this works best for us because I think when you go like that, it's, you are more flexible with melodies on vocals, because if you have set lyrics already, then you have to fit the lyrics somehow in the song. But when you're totally free, because there are no lyrics yet, you can do whatever with your voice. And this works for us. And I think we're going to continue doing it that way. And when we go to the studio, then we write on the lyrics. Usually it's me writing lyrics, but also Lemmy is writing lyrics sometimes or pitching in on a few things. So not all of the songs are the lyrics by me, but most of them, I would say like maybe 80%. And Lemmy has some songs where he wrote lyrics or we collaborated on songs for lyrics. This is usually how we do it. With the last record, with Gold, it was a bit different because it was Corona.
Yeah. So
in COVID times, was not that easy to meet up in the rehearsal space. So a lot of things were actually done at home. So Lemmy wrote a lot. And sometimes I never even played the songs before we got into the studio. And I just started there to actually work on bass lines or whatever. Wow. So that was a very different approach. I wouldn't say it was worse or if it was better, it was just different.
Okay. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I want to take a minute and talk about our sponsor, Tiesta Tea. Tiesta is a tea company on a mission to create loose leaf tea beverages with premium ingredients that taste good and do good. Each tea is blended for one of 5 categories, so you can energize, slenderize, boost antioxidants, boost immunity, and relax. My current favorite is Blueberry Wild Chow. You know, when I was growing up, my dad always told me, once you go loose, you never go bagged. And you know what? He was right. Go to tiestatea.com and use the promo code Anxiety15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. Think you know tea? You haven't tried Tiesta tea. In listening to everything, I can definitely hear a little bit of a transition. So with the first full-length album, Ring Thing, I can definitely hear, like we're saying, a huge shift in sound. But there are also a few transitional songs like Slow and Tiny and the song Weak. That's kind of a mix of the poppier sound with some like blasts of noise right in the middle. And I love that. They combine the two phases of the band. Where the hell was I going with that? I have not finished my coffee yet today, so.
I see. Yeah, it's early for you, right? For me, it's already dark.
It's a little bit. So I guess my point is, you've got this great sound. So Slow and Tiny and Weak, it's got this great mix of the two sounds, and it kind of sounds to me like I don't know how familiar you are with 80s cinema, but it kind of sounds to me like if My Bloody Valentine was asked to score a John Hughes movie like The Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink or something like that. It's this really cool combination of two things I didn't think went together. And I think that's one of the things I love about the sound. The other is that you guys aren't afraid to stretch the songs. So you've got this sound that could fit right into the middle of the 80s where extended songs weren't very popular, in pop music anyway. But you're not afraid to do a 6, 7, 8, 9 minute long song. And I think that's another thing that makes you guys unique, because you've got this, and I hate to say the word retro because it's not this retro sound. It's actually taking that sound and moving it forward. But it's unexpected, I guess, maybe is what I'm saying. Growing up in the 80s and hearing where your influences came from, I'm not used to hearing a 9 minute long song that could have been a Simple Minds song or a Tears for Fears song. So I actually love that. Like Ghosts.
Yeah, Ghosts.
Ghosts. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite song on the album. I love how it starts off with that feedback and then just transitions into something a little poppier. It's a long song, and I like it because I love it so much. I don't want it to end. So I really do appreciate that. I mean, it's over 8 minutes, and and the singing is beautiful. The chorus, everything is just, it works so perfectly, and it is definitely my favorite song on the album.
Oh, that's perfect. It's interesting because you say that is, I feel with the new record, with Gold, we have two fan favorites so far
Okay.
on the record. And I would say there's Team Ghosts and then there's Team St. Lucia Island. Like you have like these two things. I always hear people saying one or the other song. That's their favorite.
That is, you guys seem to have something with islands because you've got Iwo Jima Island and now St. Lucia Island.
Yeah,
maybe
it's this thing about islands.
Maybe it's that 80s influence, you know, it's like Miami Vice or everybody's on an island. That was always the fantasy island.
Yeah.
And you guys,
sure. Yeah.
You guys are in Germany, you know, landlocked.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have a little bit of sea, but we also have a few islands, but they're not like Caribbean islands or something. It's not that it's very cold there most of the time.
Right. Not St. Lucia or Iwo Jima.
No.
Oh, I don't think I'd want to go to.
Not.
I don't know. Iwo Jima.
Nah. Yeah, maybe not. But it's maybe you know it's like this thing. I think what you just explained is a lot about what we're thinking too. Is we like to combine things that seem to be very different from each other, and to have the freedom to not have to stick to one specific sound and be like, oh, we're like this very extreme noisy band, and we can never have like poppy vocals because we want to be super experimental. Like you can do that and you can still have poppy, like a poppiness to it. And this is, I think, what Jaguwar is actually about. I think how we are going for the future always will be, we're going to change. So the next record is also going to be different than the last record. We're not that band that's going to sound the same for the rest of its existence. Like we like to change things up. We try new things. We try to evolve, because this is also bands that I like to listen to did that too. Because if I feel like I'm listening to the same record all over again, and you have like a discography of like 10 records and they all sound the same,
that's boring.
I think it's kind of boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I don't want to hear the same thing over and over again either, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think having longer songs, what you said is like in the 80s, it was like hard to release like singles that were like super long. Like usually you wanted to be played on the radio and all of that. And I think like nowadays we have the same thing with like Spotify and all of these things. Like if you want to get into a playlist or whatever and your song is like 9 minutes long, they usually don't take it because they think it's too long. I think like a lot of times people also don't have the capacity to listen to a song that is that long because they want to have like 2 minutes and everything is said and done. And I think we're living in that time again. Actually, it didn't change that much. And I feel still like thinking about bands like Queen, for example, doing like super long songs that were also played on the radio back then. Like they did something that other people were not doing that's going to be played on the radio. And I think I also like short songs. I do. I mean, I still listen to punk rock. I also enjoy short songs.
Yeah, Punk's not known for its extended jams.
No, definitely not. And I enjoy that too. But I also enjoy longer songs if you have so much to say in a song that it doesn't get boring in 9 minutes, I think you're good. But there's also a lot of bands out there having like 10-minute song. Like I'm thinking about post-rock bands, for example. I'm not into post-rock at all because I think it's super boring. That's just my thing. Like my capacity is also very short. Like you have to do something that changes in the song. Otherwise, I'm going to skip after 2 minutes. So.
Okay, so that kind of makes a lot of sense with how you're saying that you're not the biggest fan of Loveless. The song Soon, it's 7 minutes long. But once that starts to kick into that instrumental section, it's a very repetitive 7 minutes. And if you're not into that thing, I kind of like it, but just because I used to drive a lot, I was in sales, and hearing a song like Soon, it would fill the time, but it would, you know, I felt like I could listen and I could do what I had to do, get where I had to go, and think about what I was going to do in my job, and this was just kind of playing in the background, and I never really noticed that it was like 7 minutes of the same dun 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 dun. So, but since that's not your thing, I can definitely see where you kind of take that, and you take that 7 minutes, you get a shoegazy poppy mix, but you're doing things throughout the whole thing. The song is evolving and changing throughout those 7, 8, 9 minutes long sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. That's important for us because I don't want to I don't want to get bored. I don't want other people to get bored
Right.
by our songs. And so it feels like you have, like, sometimes I feel like, and it's also what other people tell me about our songs, like sometimes you feel it's like 3 songs in one song. And I like that because it's actually kind of like that.
That is so true. And I had just gone back to check the 9-minute song that I was singing, Eyes Collide. I mean, it's a great sound, and it's 9 minutes of it, but it's not repetitive. Battles. Track 1, that's a great track. And that's one of the ones that I was saying, if you played me Battles and then played me anything off of the first album, I would be like, this is 2 different bands. But Ghost is over 8 minutes long, and it's just shifting and moving the entire time. It's so great.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is something that I myself love about our band, especially, is that we can change things up, like, over time, but also in songs. Like, I think this is something that I hope that over time people manage to understand, that change is the only thing that is consistent, right?
Yes.
And having that also in music, like, it just relates to life in general. And I hope that people will not expect us to do the same things for the rest of our lives, because then they're going to be disappointed for sure. It's also, when I think about, like, one of my favorite artists ever is Björk.
Yeah.
And I think this also explains a lot, because Björk is basically doing exactly that. Like, she is changing what she's doing with every record. Like, you can think it's something totally different. And then me as a fan, I don't enjoy every record of her. Right. There are records where I'm like, I'm never listening to them because they're just not my style. I don't understand what she's actually doing there. Like, I didn't get it. But still, I'm going to respect her always, because I don't have to like every record. Maybe then it's just not for me, and someone else can find joy in that and I don't. Then I'm going to wait for the next record to come out, and maybe I like that one. And if I don't like it, I go back to my favorite album, Vespertine, by the way, and listen to Vespertine. So, and that's okay. And I will never stand there and be like, oh my God, like, the new Björk record is shit. I don't like it at all. Like, no, it's fine. Yeah, maybe it's not my thing, but it's all right.
Well, that's a maturity in listening. And the thing with somebody like Björk is she kind of set that expectation up early in her career. You know, God, debut was different from Post, which was different from Vespertine, and
too many records. Yeah,
so many records. So hard to pick one or two out. But each one is definitely, and sometimes it's the shifts are subtle. Like, between debut and Post was a little subtle, but Post had some really different things. Like Army of Me. Army of Me was a lot heavier than any of the other stuff she had done. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. For sure. And then there's Biophilia, for example, where she's like playing like very harpy, like she has this instrument that she built herself and have like something totally new. And like she's always inventing things the whole time. And that's the beauty of it. And I love that. And I wish like this is something that we can do with Jaguar, to always shift, to always go new ways. And yeah, definitely we are also influenced by like a lot of old stuff, to say it like that. We are influenced by old music, and that's cool. A friend of mine said something that I thought was super cute. She is not into that kind of music at all. Like she listens to a lot of like Afrobeat and hip hop, R&B and something. So not related to what we are doing. Right. And still she came to a concert and she saw that, was like, yeah, it's not my music at all, but you know what? It's super cool to see you live. And I feel you are sounding like you are doing music from the future. Like it's like pop music, but it's from the future. And I was like, yeah, future pop. So I'm going to use that from now on. I love that because it's like, yeah, there's like something that is like kind of familiar to people, like specific sounds and song structures that are familiar to people. But then it's like still something that is new to it. And I love that.
Did you get a good reaction when people who were used to the first two EPs, 1 and 2, heard Ring Thing and now Gold? Were, I guess, more of your more established fans, were they into the change, or did you hear a lot of I guess what was the reaction? I'll shut up.
Yeah, I mean, there are people definitely that are fans of the first two EPs. They are not really into the newer things that we were doing. Yeah. That's fine. I think they can continue listening to the old things if they want to. I also see that in our Spotify statistics, where we have especially a lot of people from the US listening to these two EPs. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I can see that. And it's fine. I feel like people that got to know us with the first full length with Ring Thing, a lot of them were like, yeah, it's cool. And then they heard Gold and they were like, oh my God, that's way cooler. Yeah. So that is nice. I think like the people that got to know us with Ring Thing, we could take them to the next record. Like that was fine. And then there's like a part that is only listening to the two first EPs and talking in their shoegaze Facebook groups about how Jaguar was better in the beginning. It's fine.
I was there in the beginning, man.
Yeah. It's okay. And then like doing all the My Bloody Valentine comparison all over again. I'm like, it's okay. But with the new record, I was also like, if I read another like music journalist comparing us to My Bloody Valentine one more time, I'm gonna puke because we are not. Like, I'm sorry. I do understand you want to put us into your little boxes. I know this is what you do when you're a music journalist. Like, you want to be fancy and feel like you know things. I do understand that. I also wrote for a music magazine in the past. I know how that goes, but it's also like, it's okay to admit, to be like, I didn't hear something like that before. It's fine to admit that. That doesn't make you a bad journalist.
No. And I mean, I kind of get it, because when somebody's reading this, they're not listening, and you kind of want to give them a point of reference. Okay, so, but maybe instead of saying they sound like My Bloody Valentine, maybe you can phrase it differently. Like, think of My Bloody Valentine if they wrote a movie score in the 80s. Maybe don't say they sound like this, because you really don't. I mean, you guys aren't a My Bloody Valentine cover band, no. And that's evident in, the first two albums. You could say, wow, I can definitely hear that. And then with Ring Thing and now with Gold, it's there in some of the sound, but I mean, it's just moved it on to a completely different realm that I've never heard before. And that's what and maybe it's because I kind of went through it backwards. The first thing I heard from you guys was Gold. Then I'm like, okay, well, now let me go back and listen to the rest of the discography. And then so I went from Gold to 1, 2, and then Ring Thing. So I kind of made a loop. So I was actually quite shocked when I heard 1 after hearing Gold. I was like, whoa, this is the same band? Wow. It's quite different. And then the progression made a lot more sense. I didn't realize how abrupt the change was, though. I was really blown away, hearing the change. And then hearing that from 2 to ring thing was just, I don't want to say 180 degrees, but it was just a seismic shift in your sound.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is also where, I don't know, what we also hear a lot is that people say like, oh, Lemmy's voice, they sound so much like Robert Smith, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm thinking like, okay, like show me one other like indie rock singer that doesn't sound like Robert Smith or I mean, this is just like, this is just a style of singing. Okay. Like a lot of men that don't have like a very deep voice sound like Robert Smith. Like that's just how that is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, if you put reverb on it, it's gonna kind of sound that way, no matter who you are. Yeah. And I can hear it in a couple songs, but I don't think of that. When I thought of that, it was, I can't remember the name of the song because I've listened to all of it in the past 2 days. So I don't remember exactly which song it was, but there was only one song and I was like, now that sounds like Robert Smith. The rest, it was more like, okay, it sounds like, a guy with reverb on his vocals. It wasn't like, oh, that guy's trying to be Robert Smith.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I was never huge into The Cure, so I like some songs. So maybe that might be one reason why, because I'm not super familiar with their whole catalog. But
yeah, maybe. And that's like, I think it's hard as a musician sometimes to also stick out, because what we heard with Wing Thing a lot, for example, back then in reviews that we got, was a lot of, they really try to sound like this and that. And they are just reproducing things that were already there, and they're not really inventing something new. Like we all heard that before. And when I read all these things, first I was like a little bit disappointed. I was just like, oh, well, thank you for nothing. But then at some point I just thought like, you know what? It's also the question with inventing something new in pop music is like, basically everything was there already. And I also don't think it's your obligation as an artist to create something that was never there before. I don't think that defines if your music is any good or not. It's just like you're doing it your way and it makes you sound like you. And that's okay. Yeah. And you don't have to be like, I'm innovating something completely new in pop music, because that's almost not possible anymore at this point, because we all heard everything before. And then I see like all these metal bands nowadays, and I think like, you think that's new? Well, still everyone is listening to that.
That's okay. So a perfect example of that would be Greta Van Fleet. People love that band. They get compared to Led Zeppelin all the time, but you get two points of view. Oh, they're just recycling Led Zeppelin, or, oh my gosh, this is great. So part of what you're doing sounds like it came from the 80s. And a lot of people my age remember the 80s and how a lot of, so if you weren't into really pop music, like I wasn't. I was a big metalhead back then. But everybody considered pop music throwaway music. It was just stuff to fill the airwaves. Oh, this band will have 1-2 hits and then they'll be gone. And honestly, that did happen. That happens every decade in every genre. So it's not unusual. Yeah. But when you start to bring those sounds back into music and you're refreshing that sound, I think a lot of people who've been listening for a while are like, oh, they're just recycling this. But Jaguar to me is not. I mean, you're taking the sound that was popular years ago and you're moving it forward, because you're combining it with stuff that I like and that I liked back then. So that's kind of one reason why, like I was saying, when I heard it, I'm like, I got to get these guys on, because it's a unique sound to me. And, I can't think of another band, if I was a music journalist, to compare you to. So good job on coming up with something unique. It's unique, but it's familiar, and I love it.
That's nice to hear, actually.
And I love it.
Thank you. That's nice, because I like people, of course, to form their own opinion, and what your thoughts as an artist are when you produce something. You can almost always be sure that people are not gonna hear it the way that you're gonna hear it, and they're not thinking about the same things that you are thinking about. But that's also, in my eyes, this is how art works. Every kind of art, right? Even if we look into like, I don't know, Picasso or whatever, and people interpret what he was meaning with this and that. Yeah, we just interpret that. And maybe this is just not what he was thinking about at all. And that's okay. Because when you do, like, you bring the art out into the people, and then they will decide what they do with it.
Yeah.
And then it's not yours anymore at one point. And that's just how it is.
Exactly. It's like children.
Yeah, that's true.
You bring them into the world and suddenly they're not yours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my daughter's out on her date right now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
you have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
This album, you were saying that you recorded it and you came up with everything and produced it all during the pandemic. Have you had a chance to play these songs out live yet?
Yes, now we did. In the beginning, of course, we didn't. Most of the songs we didn't even play in the rehearsal room together.
Wow.
So that was special. But we had a few shows around Germany in the past few weeks. Some got canceled because of COVID. Some we were managing to do. And yeah, it's like super exciting because first of all, playing these songs is an interesting feeling. Also, when we started to decide which songs we're gonna play live, we were like, okay, are we able to do that actually? Because as we never played them before and we just recorded them in the studio, and then finding out how to do that live was a challenge with some songs.
That's
for
where I'm
sure.
going.
Yeah, St. Lucia Island, we're not playing at the moment because this is something we will have to work on for a while. But like songs like Gold, for example, we released that as a single. So we kind of felt like we have to play that song.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, like, especially for me, on the bass, it's just like I'm playing like this weird line where I have to push like I have so many different sounds in that song specifically. So and also the playing is like kind of weird at parts and switching a lot from rhythms, and I also have to sing, and then it's just like I don't know what to do first. There's too many things, and maybe it didn't go to plan all the times, but we got better with time. It's okay. And I mean, usually the audience, they don't really hear what you're hearing, what you're doing wrong. They just hear it and they're like, it's fine.
That's true.
Me struggling on stage, trying to keep the face and be like, I know exactly what I'm doing, even though I have no idea what I'm doing.
This is how it's supposed to be.
True.
Are the songs, do you think they're going to have to evolve a little bit, maybe change since they were born in the studio, really? Yeah,
for sure. Like we just had a conversation about one song that is not on Gold, but was a single before. It's like just a single song. It's on no record. And that is Ballet. And with Valet, we released that song like in between, basically. Wing Thing and Gold was just like an in-between song.
Okay.
And it should have been on the record, but we, for some reason, decided it's not going to go on the record. So maybe it's coming on the next one. Because the single is also a single version. It's shorter than the original version. So maybe we're going to put that original version somewhere sometime. And we just talked about that song the other day because we're playing it live. And Lemmy was like, yeah, I feel like the guitar line that I'm playing there all the time, it like gets annoying a little bit, and I have like some other ideas of throwing like some chords in there, and maybe we can still do that because we already recorded the long version. It's there already. He's like thinking about adding some more guitar layers at some points. So I think that's cool. So maybe it's good that we didn't release the full version yet, so we can still change it.
How much of the set list is older material?
We are playing no songs off the first EPs at the moment.
Okay.
And I know people get sad about that. And sometimes I hear, oh, can you play Muffet? Or can you play Ice Collide? And Muffet we sometimes played in the past 2 years. Ice Collide we haven't played since, I don't know, 6 years. And this one is not coming back live. Like, people can be sure about that. I don't see that coming back anytime. But Muffet, we played a few times. But in this set right now, we're not playing any songs from back then. From Wing Thing, we're playing Slow and Tiny, still live, because live, it's a banger for sure. This is our last song in the set, and people love that one a lot. And I love it too. I love to play that song too, because like this has like this punk rock thing in it, and I love that. So having that at the last song, like totally escalating after that, I just want to lay down and sleep because it's exhausting. And when people are asking for another song after that one, I'm like, did you just see what I just did? Like, I cannot play another song. I'm completely destroyed. My guitar, my bass is like somewhere in the corner where I just throw it in between. Like all my pedals, everything is like switched to something different. No, I'm not gonna play another song now. I always try to play that one last so people don't ask us for another song. But, sometimes they still want to hear another one, but we never do that. And so we're playing Slow and Tiny from Wing Thing, and I think and Lunatic we're also playing, and all the other songs are new ones.
Oh, great. Has the whole pandemic, we've mentioned several times that this album Gold was created in the pandemic, has that approach to creating this album changed the way you guys work together or write together?
I think, that's a good question. I think we will see. I mean, we recorded already a bit more songs that are not on the record right now. So they're going to come on the next record. So we already have material for another album, not like there's maybe 3 songs missing, but we already did that. And we want to start writing on a few new songs again. And Lemmy is annoying me already every day, being like, oh yeah, can we, like, I have some ideas, can I show them to you? And and we work on that. And I think like working a little bit more from home on songs than in the rehearsal space. I think this is definitely happening, but this has also to do with our drummer, Chris, is not living in the same city. So Chris is still living in Dresden, and Lemmy and I are living in Berlin. We moved to Berlin 5 years ago. So Chris is still living in Dresden, and our rehearsal space is in Dresden because it's way cheaper, because rehearsal spaces in Berlin are basically costing me another rent for an apartment because that's how expensive they are. So we are going back and forth to Dresden all the time. And of course, Lemmy is writing a lot of stuff here at home because we cannot go to the rehearsal space every time that we want to. Right. So
how long of a trip is that from Berlin to Dresden?
It's like 2 hours. Whoa. It's okay. But I mean, it's not like I can just be like, oh, it's 6 p.m. in the evening after work. I can still go to the rehearsal space.
Hey, you guys want to go meet up in Dresden for a little bit?
Yeah. This is not really possible.
And wow.
Yeah.
What are the touring opportunities coming your way now? Are things open over there? And do you have any plans to maybe come over to the U.S. anytime soon?
We toured a little bit now here in Germany, but now we are very close to another lockdown at the moment. So
wow.
This is that. So I think like we had to move some shows that we wanted to play like last week and the week before. We had to move them somewhere next year. We already have 2 shows planned in Germany for January that we had to move, but we're going to see if that's going to happen. We will try to tour a little bit more in Germany, maybe Europe next year. We were thinking we wanted to come to the US for South by Southwest.
Yeah.
We played that one before already after we released Ring Thing, but seems like we didn't get in this time. So that's too bad.
I imagine it's hard after 2020 and to get into because so many people are just dying to do this now. That's one of the biggest shows in the country each year. So I imagine that's going to be a difficult one for the next couple of years for them to accommodate everybody that wants to do it. Yeah,
I think so too. And I mean, we would love to tour the US, but the problem as a European band touring in the US is the visa situation. So
I've heard that several times.
Yeah. Otherwise we would have done that. Yeah, it's super expensive. It's crazy. I mean, what the fuck? Like I don't understand. Like you just don't want people to tour your country. I understand.
I know. Okay. Let's make it as difficult as possible for people to come over. Legally.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Because for some reason, the US believes that everyone wants to move there. I'm like, no, I'm fine over here. Like, I just want to tour. I want to go home. Yeah. I want to go home after that. I'm fine.
I know. I totally get that. I mean, I like the US, but it ain't for everybody.
yeah, that's true. And it's fine, but you have to make that clear at the border.
I know. Hey, you just want to visit for a couple of weeks, make some people happy. That's it.
Yeah, that's sad. Well, so I know people and I know so many musicians over here in Europe, and I also heard people doing that illegally touring the US, and people being like, it's super easy, and I'm like, it's super easy, but you can get if they catch you, you're gonna get blocked for the next 5 to 10 years. So I would think about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had that conversation with a few people, and if you want to take that risk, that's on you. But I don't know. You got to wait. I'm not
going to do that.
No, I like Jaguwar. I don't want you guys banned. I want you guys to come over here because I want to hear where this band goes. I mean, from 1 and 2 to Ring Thing and Gold, I'm just excited for the next album already. And Gold just came out.
Yes.
I'm dying to hear the progression of this band. I mean, who knows? Maybe you'll go back to metal or punk. Who knows?
Maybe. One time I had a friend suggesting to me going, his favorite song is Iwo Jima Island. And he's always like, I want you to go back to that. Like it was kind of metal almost. Like I want to hear that in Jaguwar again. I'm like, we'll see about that.
Who knows? I mean, you guys are so fluid.
Who knows? Yeah, everything can happen.
That's the cool thing about this band. The songs, the concept, everything is just so fluid. And it's a really wild sound. It's a really unique band. I'm so thrilled I got to meet you and to discover the band. So I want to thank you for joining me. I have kept you for about an hour at this point. I'm looking out your window. It's dark. Mm-hmm. You got a 2-hour drive to Dresden soon, I'm sure. Just going to jam.
Yeah. One time we will do that.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me. Where can people follow the band? How can they buy the album and follow tour dates and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, you can find us on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, all of that, Jaguwar. You can follow us on Facebook. I know only old people are on Facebook anymore, but you can follow us there. And for sure, Instagram, Jaguwar Music. You find us there. We have also a website that's jaguarmusic.de. And you can also find us on Bandcamp. I think Bandcamp is always a good thing to support artists there. You can also find our merch there. We just did new shirts. So if people are interested in ordering, we ship worldwide. So feel free to order a shirt. We just have to put them up, the new ones, but we're going to do that soon.
And you know what? That's a really interesting point I forgot to mention is that along with the sound of the band shifting, the artwork is shifted. The first 2 EPs, very Loveless inspired, very, very shoegazy.
Yeah.
Ring Thing is somewhere in the middle. Gold is definitely reminiscent of something that came out in the early to mid 80s.
Yeah,
and it's
for sure.
Really cool. It fits. Every album, different change. The artwork fits. You guys are great with matching up the visuals to the sounds.
Yeah, for sure. That's very important to us. Like knowing that we are living in times of the internet, visuals are super important. So we always try to be on top of our game there. And Lemmy is doing all of our artwork. We have different people that we work with for music videos and for photos. I think the last shooting that we did for Gold, where we were all wearing gold, was like a very good one. I love that one. Being in all gold, I thought this was super fitting. So yeah, we are also a band. We're good to look at. We look good. So just follow us on Instagram.
And the cool thing is gold was huge in the 80s. Everything was trimmed in gold.
Yeah, and gold is my favorite one. I only wear gold jewelry because this also fits my skin tone a lot. So gold is my thing.
So if fans want to get you anything, send you anything, make it gold.
Yeah, for sure.
Throw anything on
everything
stage.
That's gold. Yeah, as long as it's gold, just hit me at the hat with it. It's fine. As long as it's gold, I'm fine.
Excellent. Well, I mean, thank you so much. I really do appreciate this. This has been so much fun. And thank you for working through the cobwebs in my head this morning. It's not been an easy morning, apparently.
Yeah, I see. It's okay.